Why is there so much chaos in the world today? Why do we have so much war and rumors of war and natural disasters and famine and pestilence? Why? Oh, why? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Christians and Muslims haven't held up to the teachings of Jesus and Muhammad. You know, they say that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the last and final prophet of God. And one of the things he taught was to love one another. And there was a story about a guy who asked, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said, the first one is to love God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus said, well, let me tell you a story about a man who was robbed and beaten and left to die on the side of the road. And a priest and a Levite passed by, saw him, and kept going. But a Samaritan, a guy from a different religion, different race, different culture, he stopped and helped him and took care of him. So Jesus was saying, your neighbor is not just somebody who looks like you or worships the same God you do. Your neighbor is anybody in need. And we are commanded to help the needy. Well, Christians and Muslims throughout the centuries, their discrimination towards blacks was atrocious.
Ow.
It was horrible. And I believe that, part of the reason there's so much chaos in the world today is because of that discrimination. If Christians and Muslims throughout the centuries had treated blacks as equals, as human beings, with dignity and respect, I believe the world today would be a much better place. We would have more peace. There'd be less war. There'd be less poverty. We wouldn't have people who, feel like they have to take extreme measures to get even for what happened in the past. When I talk about this stuff, some people get real angry and they say, you know what? What are you talking about? You're a black Muslim. You should be, out, preaching to other Muslims and telling them to do the right thing. And I am doing that. But I also try to speak to the church and to the larger society about the need for justice and equality and peace. Because, we all want to live in a better world. I think it's going to take all of us working together to make that happen. So, as we look to Jesus and to Muhammad, we have to remember that they taught us to love one another. And that's the message I want to leave you with today. Thank you.